We're going to take a quick break from the swimming competition and turn it over to Paige Ferguson at our Robinson Road studios for NB12 News. Paige?
And thanks, Nikia, and good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 studios in Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, another man avoids the death sentence for a murder nearly 2 years ago. Police on the trail of a suspected serial arsonist reportedly setting homes on fire in southeast New Providence. A major roadblock in the government's decision to appeal a Supreme Court decision regarding road work on Blue Hill Road. Another police crackdown at Potters. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige Ferguson, and NB12 starts right now. A man convicted of strangling his ex-girlfriend and dumping her body in a graveyard in New Providence over 2 years ago avoided the death penalty today. This after a judge determined that Angelo Poiter did not deserve to be executed by the state, in line with the Privy Council ruling last week regarding Maxo Tito's overturned death sentence. Today, Supreme Court Justice Vera Watkins ruled that Poiter, who strangled his 19-year-old girlfriend Shanice Adderley in May 2009, will serve life in prison. Adderley's body was found partially buried in a grave at Veterans Cemetery on Infant View Road in the wee hours of the morning more than 2 years ago. Poiter was convicted last October. In her ruling, Justice Watkins said even though the circumstances of Adderley's murder were similar to the murder of 16-year-old Donnell Conover, who Tito killed in 2002, the standard for execution was not met. The Privy Council ruled on Wednesday that Tito's conviction did not meet the standard for the worst punishment of death because her murder was not the worst of the worst. The law lords said the worst case of murder that may call for the imposition of capital punishment would be those in which the murder is carefully planned and carried out in furtherance of another crime, such as robbery, rape, drug smuggling, human smuggling, drug wars, gang enforcement policies, kidnapping, preventing witnesses from testifying, serial killers, as well as the killing of innocents for the gratification of base desires. Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham announced yesterday that the government will soon table legislation to deal with the imposition of the death penalty. That legislation will address categories of murder in line with the Privy Council ruling. Poiter is the first murder convict sentenced since the Maxo Tito ruling was handed down. Well, since the beginning of the year, several large fires have killed at least 10 people and destroyed shanty towns, cars, homes, and multi-million-dollar businesses. But the heat has been turned up in one particular area of New Providence. Fire officials confirmed today that they believe a serial arsonist is targeting homes in the Montel Heights area. Our Jasmine Bonnaby spoke to area residents today. She filed this report.
Residents and fire officials say this is just one of several homes lit afire in the past month, and the blazes have left an entire community living in fear. Fire officials say at least 5 homes in Montel Heights have been burned to the ground in the last few weeks as their occupants slept in their beds in the wee hours of the morning. It's believed they've all been targeted, but no one is sure why. It seemed like coincidence at first, but after so many homes burned in a half-mile radius since April, police started to believe an arsonist was on the loose. Remember the Morleys, who we introduced you to last week? Their home was burned first on Good Friday, but they're not the only ones left to pick up the charred pieces of their lives. Our news team spoke to several Montel Heights residents today, most of whom would not appear on camera, who said not only are they afraid to sleep at night, but they've also had to take precautionary measures like leaving large jugs of water at their bedsides. But those measures are a little comfort to 48-year-old Devon Cash. His home burned after the Morley residence. It was destroyed in early May.
Yeah, a lot of people were scared. People were even scared to sleep. You know what I mean? And it was just weird.
The unemployed mason said the fire started shortly after 3 a.m.
And when I opened the door, I see the house was caught from flame. And then I told one of my other friends who was nearby, I said, my little brother in the house over there. So I didn't want to run past the house because there was so much of heat. And then my little brother was sleeping so hard and we were throwing rock to get him up. And one of his other friends went and knocked on his door and break one of the windows so he could get out.
Now, head of Fire Services Superintendent Jeffrey Delaveau declined to give further details on the case, citing it's still an ongoing investigation. However, he did say that from all indications, it appears to be a clear-cut case of arson as the fires follow a similar pattern. And here's what else we know. Several cars were also set on fire, and all of the homes were single-story wooden structures. We also got some of the other houses that burned right around the corner from each other. Most of the people who used to live in these homes have left the area, but one woman who still lives in the charred shell of her home says she has nowhere else to go. And it appears that the alleged serial arsonist was not successful in all his attempts, as the 73-year-old man just behind me reportedly managed to out the flames before they ignited. This senior citizen's home sits between two homes that were destroyed by fire during the early morning hours on May 7th. Residents say the man awoke to find a man's hand holding a lit wooden stick in his window, but they say the 73-year-old managed to put the flames out twice. Cash says even weeks later, many of the families that have been displaced are still picking up the pieces.
Well, I live by my girlfriend and a couple little clothes and thing with what she washed for me, what was there, and that's all I get. But I lose my bed, everything, and stove, everything, tools, everything, lumbers and everything what I had to finish. Everything like that gone. So I don't have no permanent work. I don't have no job, you know. And I already been to social service. All they did is give me $100 grocery slip, and that wasn't nothing like really to assist me in clothes and place to stay, because I live in somebody's house. I can't depend on that. I had my house. You know what I mean? I don't know what can happen when the situation or whatever can rise.
The residents believe that the suspected arsonist is targeting specific people, but did not want to say why. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
Now, for years, vendors have operated at the Potters Key Dock, serving both locals and tourists. Now, police are cracking down on vendors who may not be in compliance with business standards and regulations, placing some of their livelihoods in jeopardy. Christina McNeil has the story.
The police force, environmental health and business license officials today cracked down on vendors at Potters Key Dock in an effort to ensure compliance with the law and safety standards.
If you pay me, I'm going to see. Where is it? I paid. Yeah, I understand that. See if you come in and talk to us. Huh? Come in and see us. Like I say, come in and see us. All right, say you now. All right? All right.
Dozens of vendors at Potters Key Dock had their stalls, business licenses, and health certificates inspected. Officer in charge of licensing, Inspector Alpheus Kemp, says for the most part, vendors were in compliance with the regulations. However, there were a few issues that had to be sorted out.
Most of them are just not up to date. One or two are not in compliance, but most of them are up to date. So far, we had closed down one store. She didn't have anything, so we advised her what she needed to do to get compliant, and she has agreed to go and get a business sorted out.
A lady had closed today because a store owner died, and she had no records and no license or nothing of it. So they told her, go to the office tomorrow, the different office, get everything up to date, and reopen the store.
The remaining vendors who had their stalls inspected were fairly cooperative with the police and other officials. There were, however, a few outstanding business license issues. It appeared that some vendors were operating under the wrong licenses, but according to the Potters Key Vendors Association president, today's exercise helped to iron out some of those licensing issues. President of the Potters Key Vendors Association, Matthew Roll, tells NB12 that while some vendors showed resistance to the inspections, there was a general understanding that the police and health inspectors were not there to shut the stalls down. Rather, he says any blame should fall on the association, which is responsible for keeping vendors and stall owners up to date on legislative changes and compliance issues.
Most people are type because I would say the association for land, because this was never supposed to happen. Everybody was supposed to already be licensed up and ready to go. So they are going to give us a general license, which will include food, wine, beer, and liquor, and conch salad.
There are 58 stalls at Potters Key Dock. Vendors say they hope the area will become more enticing to tourists and visitors once everyone is in compliance with the health and safety regulations. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.